Hello and welcome to the Midday Update. These are the top headlines from our newsroom today. Vaccination of students begins in the Sultanate. Hospital in Oman issues clarity over closure. Sanitizers can cause eye injuries, say experts. Wildfires in Turkey hit new residential areas, forcing evacuations. Wildfires rage in Greece and worst heat wave in 40 years. Oman to participate in Tokyo Paralympic Games. In addition to that, we have got a very interesting guest, Mr. Shahswar Al-Balushi, who's going to shed some light on the possible outcome of the frequent lockdowns in the country. But first, let's see how the weather condition looks like in the Sultanate. Oman's Dhofar and southern governorates may witness scattered rainfall along with thunderstorms, Oman Meteorology said on Wednesday. According to them, in its daily forecast, the weather is partly cloudy to cloudy skies along with the coastals of Dhofar and southern governorates with chances of isolated rainfall. Clear skies over the rest of the Oman is predicted with chances of clouds advection. There are also chances of cloud formation and thunderstorms associated with downdraft wind over Al-Hajar Mountains towards afternoon. Late night to early morning low-level clouds over parts of the Arabian and Oman Sea coast may also be expected. With that, let's have a look at the temperature in rest of the governorates. Muscat will be partly cloudy with temperatures between 37 to 33 degrees Celsius. North Al-Batina will also be partly cloudy with temperatures between 39 to 33 degrees Celsius. South Al-Batna will also be partly cloudy with temperatures between 43 to 34 degrees Celsius. Al-Buraimi will also be partly cloudy with temperatures between 45 to 31 degrees Celsius. Al-Dahira will also be partly cloudy with temperatures between 46 to 31 degrees Celsius. Ad-Dakhliya will be sunny with temperatures between 43 to 32 degrees Celsius. North Al-Sharqiya will also be sunny with temperatures between 44 to 30 degrees Celsius. South Al-Sharqiya will also be sunny with temperatures between 39 to 33 degrees Celsius. Al-Wusta will be partly cloudy with temperatures between 45 to 30 degrees Celsius. And lastly, Dhofar will be having rain with temperatures between 28 to 24 degrees Celsius. Welcome back to TTV, watching Midday Update. Now, before we start with the local stories for today, let's have a look at the COVID-19 cases. The Ministry of Health has announced the registration of 12 new death cases due to COVID-19 in Oman today. With this number, the total death cases in the Sultanate now stands at 3,889. The health officials have also extended their deepest condolences for the families of the deceased. In addition to that, the Ministry of Health has also announced the registration of 293 new coronavirus cases in Oman today. With this, the total confirmed cases in the Sultanate now stands at 297,724, which also includes total recoveries of 281,724 as well as total deaths of 3,889. In the last 24 hours, the health officials have also registered 797 recoveries. The health officials have urged all the citizens and residents in the Sultanate to follow the precautionary measures issued by the Ministry of Health and Supreme Committee. And now from a local desk. School-going students aged 12 and above have started receiving COVID-19 vaccines as part of Oman's efforts to vaccinate them before the start of the new school year. The campaign, which is expected to run for 3 weeks, targets 320,000 students from private and public schools across the country's 11 governorates, with 90,000 students shortlisted for vaccinations in Muscat alone. Vaccinating the new target groups got off to a positive start. On the first day of immunization, which was Tuesday, August 3rd, vaccination centers such as the Oman Convention Exhibition Center in Madinat Al Irfan saw good turnout from those eligible for the jab. Those who have been in contact with COVID-19 patients or have respiratory diseases are requested to reschedule their vaccine appointments until their symptoms have subsided, Dr. Lamia Al-Balushi said, who is also the head of the epidemiological investigation team at the Directorate General of Health Services in Muscat Governorate. The vaccination of students continues alongside the Ministry of Health's efforts to inoculate the other target groups in the country, which includes providing second doses to those who have taken their first shots at least 10 weeks prior. The OCEC and Qurriyat Health Center are the two main locations in Muscat where vaccinations are being administered. They are open from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. from Sunday to Thursday. A hospital in the Sultanate, which was reportedly closed recently by the inspection teams from Muscat municipality, has clarified the matter, saying they are open for patients at all times. In connection to the news circulation by various publications and social media pages regarding the closure of Badr Sama Hospital Al Khod, we would like to state that the news was wrongly quoted and we were fully operational for normal and emergency healthcare services at all the time, said the hospital in a statement. Badr Sama also added that during an inspection by Muscat municipality to limit the crowd, we were asked to limit the entry from 2 doors instead of 3. We took some corrective actions immediately as suggested by Muscat municipality, and immediately the 3rd door was also allowed to be open. We are highly thankful to Muscat municipality for their guidance and support. Badr Sama Hospital Al Khod would like to inform patients that they are available with all healthcare services in a safe environment governed by the late protocols. Now, medical professionals in the Sultanate of Oman have advised parents to make sure that children do not put hand sanitizer lotions into their eyes, either accidentally or on purpose, because the harm it causes them might be irreversible. With sanitizer bottles a relatively new concept in many homes, having only been bought in large numbers since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, small children might not be fully aware as to what happens if they mishandle the contents within. If they enter the eye, says Dr. Sudha Ramesh, an ophthalmologist at NMC Healthcare, they could damage the surface of the eye, cause burning or even affect a person's vision by forming a cloudy layer over the cornea of the eye. She said that the chemicals in hand sanitizers make them mildly toxic to the eye, and the main effect of this is to serve burning and redness. The moment you know the sanitizer lotion has gotten into your eye, apply cool water to the affected area and continue to wash it until you reach the hospital. If you administer first aid, then by the time you get there, we will be able to help you, Dr. Sudha Ramesh added. She also said that she had come across a few patients who did need medical assistance because they had squirted sanitizers into their eyes. Cases like these are often treated through eye washing, drops, and medicines. It's time for us to take a quick commercial break, but stay tuned as we have a very interesting interview coming up. As I mentioned earlier in the show today that we have a very interesting guest joining us. So let's welcome Mr. Shahswar Al-Balushi. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Maria, for inviting me. It's great to be with you guys.
Sir, I'm going to start today's conversation with asking you, if I'm not wrong, this is the 5th lockdown that has been placed in the Sultanate since the outbreak of the COVID in February last year. How do you see these frequent lockdowns in the Sultanate?
Well, lockdowns in general are not something that we like to have, but we must have if we are trying to control the spreading of a pandemic like Corona. And I think the reason we have multiple lockdowns, as we have seen in the past, is because there is a lack of everybody working together to try to stop the spreading of the pandemic. So in general, lockdown will tend to affect our lives in many ways, if it's personal activities or business activities or the likes. So it's not a favorable thing, but the government has no option but to create this lockdowns in order to control and to hinder the spread of the virus.
Right. Sir, so far, Oman is still considered lucky enough to actually not have that many cases that needs the implementation of full lockdown. So far, all these 5 lockdowns were mainly partial lockdowns. But this year, during Eid al-Adha, the first time in the Sultanate, there was a full closure of activity for about 4 to 5 days. How do you see that implementation of full day lockdown?
Well, since we've had that full lockdown, we have noticed that the results of the new cases, the results of deaths prior and after the full lockdown, there's a massive change. We've seen a drop in cases, we've seen drop in hospitalization, we've seen drop in deaths. So this gives us an indication, if we read the numbers correctly, that as a community, we are still not taking the correct actions to stop the spreading. So as individuals, as families, as private people, we're not taking the steps. And this full lockdown during Eid has given us an indication that we need to do more if we don't want to be in a full lockdown. So we have to do something ourselves.
Right. Sir, when we talk about lockdowns, people blame each other and people blame the decisions taken by the relevant authorities. People blame each other sometimes, for the implementation of such lockdowns. In your opinion, who really is to blame when there is lockdown in the country?
I really don't want to talk about the word blame as such. I would rather say that we need to work effectively together. We need to understand what we have on hand. And we need to be proactive rather than defensive. If we are proactive, the government decisions, the high committee decisions will not be stringent. We will be able to address these issues in a much better way. But if every individual is not proactive, is not trying to make his efforts of distancing, washing hands, wearing masks, avoiding gatherings, whether it is during Eid or outside Eid, all of these play a role in determining. And also passing the information between ourselves, guys, this is a fact. We have a new virus in town. It's a very strong flu type of virus, and therefore we need to deal with it, like the people did in 1918 when the Spanish influenza occurred. But as you said, we, alhamdulillah, don't have such a huge impact in Oman. So the indication also that there are a lot of people who are committed. The government is highly committed, and they are doing their best with everything, including vaccination, etc., and so on. So we need to help each other. It's not a question of blame. I don't want to use the word blame. I need to use a harmonious activity that we need to do together.
Sir, you rightly pointed out that the government has been highly committed. And if I'm not wrong, sir, the government is not asking something extraordinary for the people in the Sultanate to follow. The precautionary measures that has been issued by the Supreme Committee and Ministry of Health is basically to protect yourself. And by doing so, you'll protect those who are around you too. And a lot of times what's happening, or what we have been seeing in the news, that people are still resisting getting vaccinated, although the Minister of Health has been, every time and again repeating the necessity of getting vaccinated.
I recently got my second dose since they opened it on Saturday. I went. I was extremely impressed by every individual that I went through the process, how the reception, how it was, the collection of information, the registration of the vaccination, etc., the speed at which it was taking place, the organization that was there. All of this tells me that the government is doing its best effort to try to convince people that let's go and get ourselves vaccinated. Okay? So it's important that we get vaccinated. If we reach the herd level of 75, 80% of the population is vaccinated, we are reducing the number of people that get infected, and those who get infected get less symptoms, and we're reducing number of hospitalization, we're reducing number of deaths, and gradually the virus will move out. We will have to live with it. It's not something that will go away. Maybe it was there before, but it became on the surface recently. But we have to live with it. We have to deal with it. We have to build our own immune system. There are people who may have negative effect with vaccination, but the numbers of those are smaller relative to the positive effect of vaccination. I would encourage people to go and get vaccinated and get that immune system built. If you're afraid of one type or another, choose the one that you are more comfortable with, whether it's Pfizer or AstraZeneca or the other ones. But in general, I would say, please do get vaccinated. Even after getting vaccinated, continue to keep distancing, wearing masks, washing hands, to avoid potential infection or spreading of infection just in case.
Right. Now, sir, going back on the topic of lockdown, I wanted to ask, in your opinion, what do you think are the possible consequences of such frequent lockdown on SMEs, people, businesses, livelihood, etc.?
Of course, the consequences on these organizations is quite big, particularly SMEs. Many companies, small companies, entered into different types of business, whether they were, for example, gym, they open new gym, or they open new restaurants, or other activities that they plan to do. Suddenly, the frequent lockdowns does affect their cash flow. It affects their success of their business. Usually, SMEs don't have sufficient working capital, and they have limited working capital. And most of them, quite a large number of SMEs, they are doing this to create opportunities for themselves so that they don't seek for employment in normal employment. Frequent lockdown is really impacting a lot of people, and we have to bear also the responsibilities to help the government to avoid frequent lockdown. This will help us and will help our children who are doing the SMEs projects, will help the youngsters who are trying to become entrepreneurs. It will help the business community as large because, as you know, SME can be a backbone of employment and can be a backbone of creating business opportunities. So it does have an impact, and we have to look at the whole picture, not just the concept about lockdown and how this is affecting me, and I would love to go to the beach or to do these events. Yes, everyone wants to have the freedom of doing this. But when we are in a position where we have to face a pandemic or a situation, we need to work together.
Right. Sir, you pointed out the exceptional efforts put in place by the government to curb the spread of the COVID-19. There is another exceptional efforts being placed by the government by providing jobs to the locals in the country. Now, we are still in the middle of the pandemic. The COVID is still going on. Do you think with this pandemic, it is going to hinder the recruitment or training process of the newly appointed citizens?
There will be an impact simply because, and it's not all purely COVID, I must say. A lot of companies were impacted when the oil price was low, and where the cash flow situation was a little bit difficult. And many companies were affected. Many companies had to restructure themselves. They had to reduce their workforce. We have read in the news that many foreign workforce had to leave the country because there were no job opportunities. I think employment will increase when we also make a very good effort to expand the economic footprint by creating new opportunities and new jobs. So stimulating the environment for investment in Oman would do that in different sectors, not focus on one or two, but in various sectors. We have to be aggressive in attracting local, regional, and international investors. We have to wear the hat of the investors to understand what is their needs, what makes them choose Oman versus other countries. And we have to be like, if we take the example of what I have experienced getting my second dose at the Ministry of Health, and try to implement that kind of swiftness, quality of service, rapidity, efficiency in our ability to attract foreign investors, in our ability to interact with foreign investors, in local investors and others, we will definitely put Oman on the map as a preferred investment nation, and therefore we will create job opportunities, and therefore it will be much, much easier for employing locals and focusing towards developing those locals in the right jobs.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, once again for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
It was a pleasure to be with you, and it's always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It's time for us to take a quick commercial break, but stay tuned as we have more updates coming your way from our international desk. Welcome back to TTV, watching Midday Update. Now from our international desk. Wildfires in Turkey's southwestern province of Mughla reached several new residential areas on Tuesday, prompting new evacuations. Footage aired by local media showed the flames engulfed homes in several neighborhoods of the Milas district. Milas Mayor Muhammad Tokat announced that the blaze is now threatening a thermal power plant that provides electricity to the region. He took this statement on Twitter and said that, "I didn't want to say this, but the thermal power plant and the fire came face to face for the first time." In some parts of Bodrum, one of the main tourist attractions of Mughla, the situation is still worrying. The flames have reached an important highway, disrupting local traffic. Meanwhile, Fahrettin Altun, communication director of the Turkish presidency, said Turkey has controlled 147 of 156 fires in the last 7 days, and 9 of the blazes continue. Foreign Minister told reporters in the southern Antalya province that the wind is very strong in the region and the situation will be critical on Wednesday as well. For the last week, Turkey has been battling massive wildfires that erupted in the southern and southwestern coastal resort towns. The blazes have claimed 8 lives so far. Talking about wildfires, Greece experienced the most painful consequences of the worst heat wave that hit the country in the last 40 years, said Deputy Prime Minister for Civil Protection and Crisis Management Nikos Hardelius on Tuesday evening. A total of 81 forest fires broke out in Greece in the last 24 hours. There were still 40 active fires across the country, he told a press briefing here that was broadcast on Greek national broadcaster ERT. The largest and most dangerous front in the north of Athens on the foothills of Pernitha Mount that broke out earlier, threatening residential areas, he said. The combination of extreme temperatures reaching up to 45 degrees Celsius, strong winds up to B446, and low humidity levels was making the task of bringing the blaze under control much harder. The fire service has been assisted by the army, the police, volunteers, and municipal crews. A total of 525 fighters were operating in the area, with 150 groups of the firefighters on foot and 150 vehicles, 9 helicopters, and 5 aircraft, including a Russian Berev B-200 amphibious plane to contain the fire. It's time for us to take a quick commercial once again, but stay tuned. We have more updates coming your way from a sports desk.
The story behind the Olympic Marathon. Held until 2016, the marathon gets its name from the Battle of the Marathon in 490 BC, where a Greek force defeated the invading Persians. The Greeks, primarily comprising of Athenians, prepared to hold their ground near town of the Marathon against the mighty Persian Empire, and chose to send one of their runners, Phidippides, to ask the renowned Spartans for assistance. He chose to run all the way to Sparta and then back to the Marathon to deliver the Spartans' response. When the Greeks routed the Persians, he volunteered to run all the way to Athens, a distance of some 40 kilometers, to deliver news of victory. Refusing to stop before he relayed his message, an exhausted Phidippides finally delivered his tidings to the Athenians, before collapsing and breathing his last. His endeavors were honored in the Olympic Marathon, which was set at the length of 42.195 kilometers.
Oman will participate in the Paralympic Games to be held in Tokyo from August 20th to September 6, 2021. Oman Paralympic Committee will participate in the Paralympic Games hosted by Tokyo from August 20th to September 6, 2021. The Sultanate's Paralympic team is represented in the competition by Mohammad Al-Mashaiki, Taha Al-Haresi, and Iman Al-Shamsi, Oman News Agency said in a statement. Talking about the gold medals from Tokyo Olympic Games on today, we have the British crew of Hannah Mills and Ada McIntyre won the women's 470 gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics on Wednesday. With a 14-point advantage after completing the opening series, Mills and McIntyre topped the standings after finishing safely in the medal race in fifth. Cuban boxer Arlen Lopez clinched the men's light heavyweight gold at Tokyo 2020, beating Britain's Benjamin Whittaker in final on Wednesday. Sakura Yosozumi won the third skateboarding gold for Olympic host Japan in as many events, with victory in the women's park final on Wednesday. The 19-year-old had an impressive first run in the final that earned her 60.09 points, which no other skaters could match. Already leading the overall classification heading into Wednesday's medal race, Australia's Matthew Belcher and Will Ryan sealed the men's 470 gold in style by winning the medal race as well as the Tokyo Olympics. U.S. runner Sydney McLaughlin won the women's 400-meter hurdles title with new world record here on Wednesday at the Tokyo Olympics. She finished the race in 51.46 seconds, 0.44 seconds faster than previous world record set by herself on June 27. Also, not a gold winner, but Indian boxer Lovlina Borgohain took the bronze medal after she lost the women's welterweight 64 to 69 kg category semi-final bout to her Turkish counterpart in the Tokyo Olympics on Wednesday. Lastly, Ana Marcela Cunha of Brazil won her first Olympic gold in women's 10-kilometer marathon swimming on Wednesday. Marcela clocked a winning time of 1 hour 59 minutes and 30.8 seconds for her title. With this news, we have come to the end of the episode for today, but before that, let's have a quick look at the medal tally. It's time for us to say goodbye for today, but stay tuned as we'll be back again tomorrow with more updates and latest news your way. Keep watching TTV.
You've just heard the live feed from the TTV studios on TFM 95.4. Let's talk.